We're presenting it in a way where they're still bad people. They're just not bad people in the same way. But like, you're closing your minds. You're finding ways to write off a whole group of people. It remains to be seen whether he'll continue down this kind of path and end up completely against his own principles. The part I agree with is like, yeah, if you think someone's a man, just say man. That's fine. That's fine. You know, use the man, see what happens. Do your part to like normalize more feminine looking people using the men's toilet. I think that's the best way.
I love you, Mary.
So Graham Linhan was arrested for tweets, but at the same time, he's also got this court case going on about him supposedly harassing this trans teenager called Sophia Brooks. Very much to me, it seems like they were both harassing each other. There's a lot of footage of this person harassing women at this event that they were at, where Graham Linhan was at. Graham Linhan ends up like swatting their phone out of their hand and it gets damaged. That part of it, I can see why he might get in trouble for, because you're breaking someone else's property ultimately. They don't really have the right to do that. At the same time, I don't think the harassment shit has much to it. So yeah, we've got what the fuck is a ultra-radical feminist? Conversation with Venice Allen and Julia Long, Westminster Court. So I saw this live. I had a lot of feelings about it. I do have certain concerns. Like I watched on this live, there's like some TRA types like behind the camera as to where he is right now. And like there was an awful lot of throwing like playground insults at them, trying to come up with a insulting name for a group of TRAs. This is someone who claims like some sympathy for trans people and says that he thinks they're victims, maybe in this very video, in fact, says that he thinks they're victims and he feels sorry for them. I don't know how sorry you feel for a group when, because they're here to meet the other person, to the person you're supporting, you need to like constantly denigrate them. I think that's a bit much myself. It's a bit gratuitous. But let's see what the video is.
Some of these rad femmes, they call themselves ultras. I'll have to get them. Venice, can you come and talk with me a second? This is Venice Allen.
I'm an ultra.
I know, that's why I'm asking you.
And Julia Long's an ultra.
Yeah.
She's right here.
Yeah, do you want to come in, Julia?
Come on.
What's an ultra?
Okay, so basically an ultra is someone in our context, is someone who doesn't compromise our language.
She's always like this, Jesus Christ.
But the reason that this ultra kind of moniker became a bit taken up was because there was an article, I can't remember, maybe last year sometime, by the Times journalist Janice Turner.
Okay.
St. Janice of Turner, we like
St. Janice of Turner, St. Janice of the Turnaround. She called us ultras. She said something, she was talking about language. And
she did an article, no, I know.
Oh,
she wrote an article about Debbie Hayton, who's a so she wrote a piece in the Times about a gender critical tranny, which is an oxymoron. It's like saying a meat critical, a vegetarian butcher.
So this is me, by the way. I'm a gender critical tranny for sure.
Oxymoron.
It's not an oxymoron. I'm definitely going to have to make a video explaining this shit. It's not an oxymoron. It really depends how you define trans, what ideas you're taking from gender critical that you agree with. Like that's literally what I am. And these people are just wrong if they think that you can't be trans and gender critical. Absolutely makes sense, depending on how you spin it.
Saying a meat critical, a vegetarian butcher.
I mean, there might be a criticism here for Debbie Hayton. It depends on how Debbie Hayton lives their life, you know what I mean? It depends on their kind of outlook on a whole bunch of stuff. For example, if Debbie Hayton still thinks that they are a woman in some way, then they're not really gender critical, because they're saying that there's some way that they can become a woman that isn't their sex. And that would be via gender, which is what gender critical is critical of, you know, fairly simple.
Right, okay.
Anyway, so she wrote this whole piece. It was only a year ago. It wasn't like years and years ago. It was like a year ago when everyone, even the normal, very polite women are already calling them he. She writes this whole piece about this guy, who actually himself, because he's gender critical, he says, you can call me he if you like. Oh, I do like to be called she.
Yeah, what's wrong with a trans person being fine with being called he? Isn't that what you want?
But he says, yeah. But anyway, she wrote the whole piece, and then everyone on Twitter was going, you fucking sell out. Oh, and then she tweeted,
Debbie Hayton doesn't think he can become a woman, but I worry about his wife. Yeah, I mean, there is that. Listen, I only know so much about him. Like the only time I really watched Debbie Hayton, it was actually my first ever video that I published. Was like Debbie Hayton and Frida Wallace. And Frida Wallace is like fucking shouting it like Debbie Hayton. It's fucking ridiculous.
Ultras. No. In the article, Venice.
No, you're
No, I'm not. My recollection was that in the article she said something about the ultras and then the others who call them, or the ones all like all of these, then the ones like these who all demand that you use their pretend pronouns and all that kind of stuff. But I'm pretty sure that it was in the article, but I might be wrong on that. It's very unlikely, but I might be. But anyway, so the point of this term ultra in this context is that we don't compromise our language.
Right, okay.
And
Yeah, so we don't compromise our language. We'll still demean so-called trans women who actually are just gender non-conforming males and are happy to be addressed as such. Happy to be called he, happy to be called a man. Don't give a shit about that.
insisted, basically, since a long time ago, since we were first involved, we said it's really important not to compromise the language. Because
Julia especially said that, and she was very attacked by other academics.
Because there were others, well, not just academics,
journalists, left-wing women.
But basically, there was a very misguided notion amongst certain quarters at the time was, it's more strategic to say she, and we have to meet them where they are. And these Daves, these men in dresses who were on our side, as they thought, they're very useful. So they called them trans women and said she, and blah 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 blah, and all of that. But obviously, if you think about it, it's such. I don't even have to tell either of you two. It's such a simple point. If the whole problem is men pretending to be women and everyone pretending along with them that they're women, the last thing that you do is call them women or call them she. It's such a simple, obvious point, and I think those of them who have changed their tune over the time,
which is good that they've changed their
tune. It's very good that they've changed their time, but I think
Oh, how generous of you.
They kind of resented being wrong about it, although they clearly were.
And they attacked Julia for years before I got involved. See, I got involved in 2017. Julia had already done a conference called Thinking Differently the year before. And
others.
And she'd already been kind of exiled by we call them sock femmes, socialist feminists.
It wasn't all the sock femmes, it was just basically all the.
But can I just say something about ultra? Is that Janice Turner was saying in a super mean way, because ultra is the term for like a racist football supporter, right?
Yeah, ultra.
So although we've reclaimed it and made it jolly, it actually was meant like saying you're fucking trash, working class trash, dangerous people.
Maybe I'm not really the biggest football fan. Like, to me, ultra does sound like someone who is like especially radical. If we're talking about ultra radical feminist, but I don't really see the connotation. But I'm not so familiar with that usage. So
Italian, like Lazio or something. I think they're fantastic.
I don't know. I'm not interested in football, but I think so.
But also, just to say about the need for clarity of language, I wouldn't claim. I'm not claiming for a minute that it was just me. There were.
There we go. He's still alive. Look at them. They're cheering it. They're cheering other people's misfortune. That's why it's got a case on it. We got a cheer. They are alive. When somebody suffers a misfortune, they cheer.
Anyway,
wow.
I was saying, to attempt to silence me, but yeah, there were quite a few of us, and a lot of the women whose names aren't known now. They haven't been big in the media. Whatever, their names aren't known. But I found those women who were absolutely clear about naming men as men. They were just a breath of fresh air. They were a breath of sanity. When most of the so-called gender critical at that time were still doing all this, calling them she, or coming on to starting off media interviews and things like that by saying, I'm not transphobic, or I support trans rights. Well, obviously, all of this.
We still hear this all the time. That's like what everyone says. It's the same shit with like the hotel protesters. Oh, well, I'm not racist, but, and maybe they're not racist. They're around some people that probably are, let's be real. I would maybe say the same thing about like TERF types. Plenty of them probably aren't transphobic as per how I would define it as, which is like hatred of trans people. I don't think any criticism of trans people is inherently transphobic. You probably know at least a few people that are actually genuinely transphobic though. I like some of the way, I'm not saying necessarily this person or anyone else that you can see in shot or whatever. But you certainly get some of these people. The way they go on about some of this stuff, it is quite gratuitous. And it is quite, like, pointed. So you do wonder about some of them. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like, me calling someone transphobic is not very meaningful, quite honestly.
Stuff. If the whole concept of trans is a complete lie and falsehood,
You can't call
what
them
rights
that,
are you
I mean, this is basically fine. No one has to call anyone anything that they don't want to. I fully agree. I'm not owed to be called a she by anyone just because I would say that I'm a trans person. I don't owe anyone else to call them a she or a he or anything else.
You're supporting. You're saying whatever they said after that. I just thought, well, you've already chucked it away by saying you support trans rights.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the ultras are all the ones, and there's many of us.
I can see why you get some women that are generally like gender critical, but moderate in the sense that they might see that trans seems to genuinely help some of these people, and that some of them make an effort and clearly don't cause a problem in like spaces and stuff. I can see why other gender critical people would take issue with that, because you're still kind of making a reality claim. You're still saying, well, these ones are women and these ones aren't. It's like, how do you actually separate them when they're all male? You know what I mean? And I've kind of come to the conclusion, like, a male person actually cannot take on womanhood. And that's fine. I'm not a woman. I don't have to be. I'm just me.
And in fact, I think pretty much everyone now does agree that it's really important to name reality, because what they're trying to do is completely distort and reverse reality. So we have to name it as it is.
Yeah.
That's right.
I've got a question for you, right?
Oh,
so when I started doing
So this part was really interesting to me.
this, and it's happening more and more, there are some men that are coming to me that are identifying as women, but they're saying some of the right things, right?
Oh,
Yeah, they're saying some of the right things. Well, they're expressing their opinions, I presume. I suppose you never know which ones are just kind of trying to moderate in a way that appeals to other people. It's really annoying. Like, if you're a trans person who becomes cynical and becomes skeptical, you're kind of getting the finger from both sides to an extent. And it's like, well, I don't know, man. I'm being got to pick me by both sides when it's like, actually, I'm just saying what my opinion is. I don't need any fucking TRA's permission to agree with any of that shit. I don't need any gender critical's permission to agree with any of that shit. And I'm not just saying things to impress any one person. I couldn't give a fuck less. If I met any of these people, I couldn't give a fuck less what they think about me.
God.
So
yeah.
they're saying,
It's like straight away, oh God. Isn't that a good thing? People are starting to come around.
keep it away from children, keep it out of women's sports, and we'll do our best. You know, we'll use, when I go out, I'll make sure I only use the disabled facility.
You can't even steel man it properly. Like, no. Highlight the ones that say, I use the men's because I'm male. You have to steel man this shit properly. Because now this person's going to be like, oh, well, no, don't use the disabled toilet. And that's fair enough, you know. But it's because he's not even steel manning it properly.
Now,
Like, this whole conversation is set up in a way to, like, denigrate these people that are clearly changing their mind. That clearly aren't pushing all the same bullshit that some of these people are. But it's about not giving even these people, like, any grace. I don't think that's good. I think both sides need to give each other more grace. On the one side, you've got a bunch of people who reject a reality claim that doesn't really have anything to it, that being gender critical types. On the other, you've got a group of people who, well, it was very normalized for a point in time to be able to go around being known as a woman and to use women's spaces. And it's going to take time for people to get out of that mentality. And rejecting anyone outright because they're not pure enough for you isn't the way, I don't think. Like, people are starting to change their mind. They might continue, they might not. But it's not about saying the right things. It's about how any one individual person thinks.
Be using the disabled. They shouldn't be using disabled facilities.
Unless they're disabled.
What an insult! Like, you're not disabled. Get
See what I mean? Like, we're presenting it in a way where they're still bad people. They're just not bad people in the same way. Like, at least steel man these people properly. You know what I mean? And in his defense, maybe this is generally what he hears. Oh, I use the disabled instead. You probably shouldn't go with that line. If you're someone who you don't want to use women's toilets anymore because you feel bad about it now, saying shit like, oh, well, I'll just use the disabled instead. You are going to get people's backs up. You are going to get people saying, aren't those for disabled people? And you might be able to say, well, I'm disabled myself. You might not get away with that. It's not a great way of putting it, honestly. You know, use the man, see what happens. Do your part to, like, normalize more feminine looking people using the men's toilet. I think that's the best way. The same purity spiraling that the left falls victim to. Yeah, you do get an extent. I think there'll be a better example as we go on. We're almost at the end anyway. But like, there is an extent to which some of the ways that TRAs engage with the other side and some of the ways that more ultra like GCs engage with the other side, it kind of mirrors each other.
Out of those toilets, like, no, use the men's, you're men. And if you're that much of a supposed ally, stop calling yourself Debbie or Christina.
I ain't no ally.
Or, you know, whatever.
If I called myself an ally, this person would find that patronizing. There's no winning with some of these people. And that's fine. I'm not actually trying to impress any of these fucking people. I don't care. I'm just lucky. I made a channel and talked about some shit and some people happen to agree with me. But it's always about this, like, oh, well, if you're going to be like an ally to our cause, are they even allies to your cause, or have they just changed their mind on some stuff? Or do they just think a bit differently on some stuff? Bear in mind, we're getting his version of what these people are that reached out to him. And if you're going to be an ally, change your name. Like, it's someone's name, man. What if it's a gender neutral name? Can they get away with that? What if they just don't particularly want to fucking change their name again and have to deal with changing their name on their fucking bank and with their doctor and all this other shit for the second time? Why does it matter that much what someone is called?
Because they'll say one thing to you and then they'll do something else. But they still try to move through.
We speak for other people. This is what I mean. It kind of mirrors the TRA types. TRA types constantly will speak for these people. Oh, you just want to destroy any notion of trans people existing in public and shit like that, which I don't think is true. I don't think that's true at all. I think people have disagreements on this subject. At the same time, how is this any better? Oh, well, they'll just say one thing to you and one thing to another. Who are you talking about?
The world being called Debbie or Christina or whatever they're trying to be called. So, no.
What they're trying to be called, they've been called that a while and they might have had a different perspective than what they do now. I know. Is it for you? Does it matter that much what someone is called?
I think actually they're the most uber gaslighting. And that's how they wormed their way in. And unfortunately, there were some women.
Like, again, who are we talking about? Worm their way in. I don't know about anyone else. I don't want to be part of any fucking movement, particularly.
Who weren't clear-sighted enough to understand that. But
So it's about ultimate cynicism, basically. It's about, well, they might have changed their mind on this. And it's like, well, what do you base it on? You see any gender non-conforming male and think they might be one of those like supposed trans women that are like gaslighting you or something. So to what extent is this kind of not very congruent with gender critical? When it's like, well, you're a trans woman, you're still a man. Okay, you accept that you're a man, but don't use any spaces that aren't for men. Okay, well, you do use men's spaces and admit you're a man, but now your name is a problem. Like, at a certain point, who fucking cares, man? I think we're blowing smoke up our asses, assuming that any of these people actually want to be part of a movement and don't just want to express their opinion. But this conversation is not about anyone specific. It's very easy. It's very easy to just invent a person and have a conversation where you destroy all of that invented person's like talking points or completely undermine that invented person's like perspective to make yours look better. Like, I don't care for that.
Glad I've had this conversation because there's many of them that are lined up that want me to interview them.
And bear in mind when you hear this guy, his whole thing is, oh, well, I want to have conversations. I wear this sandwich board with these fairly like provocative statements, shall we say, because I want to have conversation. In general, I think that's probably true. He does have conversations. He literally has a fucking channel showing himself having conversations. So I can buy that. But then at the same time, he's kind of buying into this empty cynicism where maybe he shouldn't talk to trans people because they're all just trying to gaslight you. Do you know what I mean? Oh, don't talk to that person. They're a bad person. It's like, again, are you not just kind of doing what the other side is doing in your own way?
Oh, yeah.
When I first started doing this, I have spoken to one of them.
Yeah, here's what I will say. Most gender criticals I come across, they don't really give a shit about names so much. Like you watch someone like Peak Trans, where she won't mind like calling Katie Montgomery Katie or whatever. It's their name, whatever. People change their names for all kinds of reasons. It's a bit of a silly thing to get precious about, to be quite honest. But they just won't use like pronouns and stuff. And that's fair enough. Like pronouns are how you refer to one sex or the other. But yeah, there's always something. And that's fine. Listen, I don't care if I don't appeal to any one of these people. I don't care if there are people on the gender critical side, just like there are people on the trans rights activist side that will look at me and reject me out of hand. I'm very used to that. That has happened my whole life because I'm fucking weird outwardly, you know what I mean? So that's fine. I don't give a fuck. But like, you're closing your minds. You're finding ways to write off a whole group of people using bad examples, using poorly steel-manned arguments, using empty cynicism.
And he said all the right things, you know, he knows that he's a man, and I'm thinking, when more and more...
A male person says they know that they're a man, you're shaking your head. Why? You agree with that? You agree?
I have spoken to one of them, and he said all the right things.
Maybe I should watch this conversation. I didn't watch it. It was someone, I think called Lola or something like that. And like, they still have a very like gendered appearance in what I remember. But then that's the thing. Surely that kind of presentation style should be for anyone, because presentation styles aren't biological. Surely the idea, if you're gender critical, should be to erase like gender in general. And like, this person at least looks the part. She don't look like she's trying to like reinforce like gender stereotypes. But if you saw like what you might call a cross-dressing man, or a man that's more androgynous and likes a certain like dress style, you know what I mean? You might write them off as the same thing. In that case, so you're not like reinforcing gender stereotypes. Now, I don't know if this person is like about that for sure, but it's certainly something that is risked for sure. I think Steve will end up going down the ultra route. Maybe. He seems quite impressionable around these people. He seems like he's getting more and more access to a lot of these kinds of people who are quite hardline. And I think he's quite easily, like, it comes across certainly, I don't know him personally, it comes across like he is a little bit easily influenced by these types. You know, he's the new kid on the block, he doesn't want to rock the boat. And if it means agreeing to all kinds of shit that is potentially a bit against his principles, such as agreeing to a whole bunch of shit that amounts to telling you why you shouldn't listen to people, why you shouldn't give certain people the time of day, when his whole thing is about having conversations across the aisle. That does obviously worry me a fair bit. Yeah, meet Lola.
So it's a big, thick manual. I wish I'd have brought it in.
Because I mean, surely, if you're a true gender critical, and this is a male person, and they say, well, yeah, I'm a male, I'm a man, that's fine, whatever. Call me a he if you want. What's really the problem there, you know? What's really the problem? The other thing is, you might say they're like doing some kind of sexist thing, like taking the hormones, getting the facial surgery. Well, that might have been a long time ago. They might have changed their mind since then, but that's how they are now. So I think what we need to get away from as much as possible is trying to find excuses to not engage with someone in good faith. Gender criticals do tar GNCs with the same brush. I've had shit from some after detransitioning at various different events, with them thinking I was trans. Same people who are publicly for GNC doing it as well. Yeah. I think there's a certain amount of hypocrisy on the gender critical side when it comes to like gender nonconformity. And it's something I want to kind of press on more and more, because I have a lot of agreements with these people. And I think that kind of shit undermines it and makes it a lot easier for people to write you off as maybe you are just transphobic. Maybe you actually do want to reinforce gender stereotypes. I still think more of them need to be a bit more vocal about some of the ideas that you should just like accost or even assault anyone that you see in a women's bathroom that you perceive as male, when you always run the risk of like a gender non-conforming woman being inadvertently targeted. You know what I mean? You have to kind of reckon with that. But yeah, there's Lola person, that's who they're talking about.
I'm going to say I felt like I was trapped in the wrong body or anything like that. I'm not going to say that I knew I was a girl or I wanted to be a girl. I was just acting what came natural to me.
Like, is this person just saying the right thing to impress someone? Well, we don't know, do we? Should we assume either way? I'd rather not. And when you get that kind of shit from like TRAs, and you get that kind of shit from the other side, it just kind of makes you want to not fucking bother with either of them. And that's fine. I mean, listen, I know a lot of gender critical types, and largely they seem fine. They seem kind enough, the ones that watch me at least. But there's certainly problems. And like the way it's framed as well is gonna impact people. Oh, well, I still know I'm a man. It's like, well, you know, that's the bare minimum. But it's like, well, he might agree with you on a whole bunch of stuff. And all of this might just be how this person is comfortable, but they know what they are. Like, well, that's fine then, surely. What's the problem exactly?
You You know, he knows that he's a man, and I'm thinking, when more and more started coming to me, I'm thinking, are they trying to maybe groom me and get to platform them?
Well, any of them might be, but then you could say the same with these people. Is he not being groomed at all by like these ultra types to try and think a certain way? That could be happening from any person at any time. Do trans people deserve more scrutiny than anyone else for that? I don't know.
It's like, you know, sex offenders doing those sex offender treatment programs. They say that.
Our go-to example to compare trans people to is sex offenders. How nice. How nice. You're very good faith, I can tell.
The right things. They sit around in a circle and say the right things. Just because someone says the right things, but look at what they're doing, not what they're saying. They're trying to go through the world with all their whatever fake God knows what and their women's names.
Okay, so you are pushing gender conformity then. So are you gender critical? Are you that much of a feminist? How come you get to go around with your short hair and your fairly masculine sense of dress, and that's fine? But then I go around with like tits that I only grew artificially. I like long hair and a bit of makeup, and that's potentially a problem.
Like, no, absolutely not. You can give all that up if you want.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Don't talk to these people. Don't talk to those. They're just trying to like influence you a certain way, as if we're not trying to do the same. Like, I hope he doesn't fall for this shit, but like, unfortunately, I think he seems a bit starstruck around a lot of these people. And it very quickly goes from, well, I just want to have conversations and just, you know, gauge different people's opinions and give my own opinion. It very quickly goes from that to, well, I'm part of this crowd.
Actually show that you're on the right side. No. And
Okay.
Show that you're on the right side. Do any of these people particularly care about that, or do they just want to tell their stories? Why do trans people in this instance deserve ultimate scrutiny and ultimate bad faith?
It's no surprise that they want to be, that they're seeking out interviews with you. It's no surprise. It's male entitlement.
Yeah.
Male entitlement. Again, it's all this like assuming. Like, it's crazy to me. How are you not doing the same shit that so many of these TRA types do? Where like someone like this will like interview someone and someone else come over, oh, don't talk to him, he's like a fascist or whatever. You know what I mean? Me personally, I don't actually care about impressing anyone doing this. I get accused of it all the time. That's fine, you can think that. I'll speak out against anyone that I think is wrong about something, or anyone that I think is a bit of a hypocrite on some issue. And I don't know, it remains to be seen with Steve. I find some of his content interesting. I agree with him on a bunch of stuff. At the same time, getting sucked into like a ideologue fucking echo chamber doesn't help anyone. You just become another foot soldier at that point. Is that what you want to be? The insane pouting over Shadow the interview. I cannot fathom what they're so agitated about. Oh yeah, Amala showed Graham Linhan wearing his sandwich board. Who was it who said? I know it was Mischief or someone else, and I can't remember if it was in like private messages or on my Discord or something, saying that his sandwich board is going to get a lot more famous than he is. The part I agree with is like, yeah, if you think someone's a man, just say man. That's fine. That's fine. But then it gets to the point where we have all this abject cynicism for anyone that is on the other side, without even checking, without doing anything to make sure. Anyone can be bad faith in any direction. Anyone can be just trying to influence someone in any direction. There really isn't a reason why trans people should be scrutinized more in that respect than anyone else. I think talking to people who disagree with you is very important, because echo chambers are dangerous and probably bad for people's mental health. I agree. When I start seeing people on either side making excuses for why you don't talk to certain kinds of people, or why you should regard certain kinds of people off the bat as like bad in some way, I don't think that's conducive. I don't think that fits with someone like this, who is about like having conversations and about reaching across the aisle. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. It remains to be seen whether he'll continue down this kind of path and end up completely against his own principles. But let's see. We'll find out. So there we go. There's my disagreements with ultra radical feminists. Listen, I have a lot of agreements as well, and I support their right to call a person what they want to call them. But there's lots of stuff I agree with. But I'm not saying that because I want to be on their side. I'm not saying that to be in anyone's good books. I'm saying that because that's what I think. And if you want to regard me as just trying to get in with some crowd, then, you know, you're welcome to be wrong about me. That's fine. Anyway, how are we doing? Make sure you like the stream. Make sure you like the stream. Yeah, these are the comments. They seem largely accepting. I think the ultra types are kind of a minority for a reason. Anyway, like the stream, check the links in my description.